In October 2024, the Nobel Committee in Stockholm announced the winner of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. The name they read out was Demis Hassabis. Here is what made that unusual. Demis Hassabis is not a chemist. He is a computer scientist, a neuroscientist, and before either of those things, a video games programmer from North London who spent his teenage years writing code for a hospital simulation game. He didn't discover a molecule, he didn't synthesize a compound, he built an artificial intelligence that cracked a problem biochemists had been failing to solve for 50 years. And in doing so, he may have permanently accelerated the timeline for treating diseases that have killed hundreds of millions of people. The Nobel Prize in Chemistry for a man who once debugged graphics engines at a game studio in Guildford. This is the story of Demis Hassabis and why the company he built may be the most consequential in this entire series. Demis Hassabis was born in 1976 in North London to a Greek Cypriot father and a Chinese Singaporean mother. His parents ran a toy shop. He grew up surrounded by games and immediately started trying to understand how they work. By the age of 4, he was playing chess. By 13, he had reached master level, good enough to compete seriously with adults who had spent their entire lives at the board. He was ranked second in the world for his age. What made him unusual wasn't just his ability to play, it was what chess revealed about how his mind worked. He was interested in intelligence itself, in how thinking happened, how decisions got made, how a human brain could hold an entire board state in memory and calculate 12 moves forward simultaneously. At 16, he took a gap year, not to travel, to work at Bullfrog Productions, one of the most celebrated British game studios of the era. Think theme park, Syndicate and Populous. While still a teenager, Hassabis contributed code to Theme Hospital, a game that sold over 4 million copies and is still remembered fondly today. He went to Cambridge on a scholarship, computer science, graduated with a double first, then returned to games to start his own studio, Elixir Studios, where he spent the better part of 6 years making work that was critically admired and commercially modest. Republic the Revolution, Evil Genius, interesting games, not quite a breakout. By his early 30s, he had achieved more than most people manage in a lifetime, and then he walked away from it. In 2005, Hassabis enrolled as a PhD student at University College London. He was 29 years old. His subject was neuroscience, specifically how the human brain constructs and reconstructs memories, and what that might tell us about the nature of imagination. This was not a retreat, it was a calculated move. Hassabis had decided that to build truly intelligent machines, he first needed to understand how biological intelligence actually worked. You cannot reverse engineer something you don't understand. His research landed in Nature Neuroscience. He discovered something striking, that patients with hippocampal damage didn't just struggle to recall the past, they also struggled to imagine the future. Memory and imagination, he argued, were the same cognitive process, running in opposite directions. It was serious academic work. It was also the last piece of a puzzle he had been assembling since childhood. In 2010, he co-founded DeepMind with Shane Legg and Mustafa Suleyman. The stated mission was either visionary or alarming depending on your disposition, to solve intelligence and then use that to solve everything else. DeepMind's early work was unlike anything else happening in the industry. Rather than training systems to perform specific tasks, Hassabis wanted to build AI that could learn from raw experience, the way a child learns, with minimal human instruction. They proved it by letting an AI loose on Atari games. No rules explained, no strategy provided, just pixels, a score, and the signal to do better. The system taught itself to play Breakout well enough to embarrass most humans. It also discovered a tactic, tunneling to the top corner to hit bricks from above, that no one had programmed it to find. Google had been watching closely. In 2014, they acquired DeepMind for a figure reported at around $500 million. Hassabis was 37. What happened in that negotiation is the detail most people miss. Hassabis had offers from Facebook as well as Google. He chose Google, but he imposed conditions. DeepMind would operate as an independent research lab. There would be a formal AI ethics board, an oversight body governing how the technology was developed and deployed. This was 2014. The phrase AI safety had barely entered public conversation. Facebook declined those terms. Google agreed. The ethics board was later wound down quietly, but the fact that Hassabis demanded it at all and made it a condition of the deal tells you something about how he sees what he's building. Inside Google, DeepMind has lived in a state of productive tension ever since. Google is a product company. DeepMind is a research institution. Those are not the same thing, and they don't always want the same things. Google wanted talent and technology. DeepMind wanted capital and compute. The arrangement worked, but it was never entirely comfortable, and the internal politics have never been entirely quiet. AlphaGo changed the public story. In 2016, DeepMind's Go playing system defeated Lee Sedol, one of the greatest players alive, 4 games to 1. Go was supposed to be the game machines couldn't crack. The branching possibilities exceeded the number of atoms in the observable universe. AlphaGo didn't just win, it played moves that experienced commentators described as beautiful. Moves no human would have chosen. Governments noticed. The AI arms race that had been running quietly for years suddenly had a public face. Then came AlphaFold. Proteins fold into specific 3-dimensional shapes that determine how they function in the body. Understanding those shapes matters enormously for medicine, and scientists had been failing to predict them reliably since the 1970s. The gap between knowing a protein's genetic sequence and knowing its structure had stalled drug discovery for decades. AlphaFold closed that gap. Not approximately, it predicted protein structures with an accuracy matching experimental methods that took years and cost millions. DeepMind then made the entire database, over 200 million structures, freely available to any researcher in the world at no cost. There is no direct revenue model for that decision. It will not appear on a quarterly earnings call, but the downstream value in cancer research, in Alzheimer's, in antibiotic resistance is genuinely difficult to quantify. This is Hassabis' argument about what AI is actually for. Which brings us to the fault line running through this entire series. In the last episode, we covered Sam Altman and OpenAI, a company that made the deliberate choice to release powerful AI to the public, move fast, and shape the direction of the technology by dominating adoption first. ChatGPT reached 100 million users in 2 months. OpenAI is now valued at over $300 billion. Hassabis chose a different path: slower publication, more caution around deployment, foundational belief that artificial general intelligence, when it arrives, should be treated as the most consequential and potentially dangerous development in human history. These are not just different business strategies, they are different philosophies about what is actually being built and what the responsibility looks like when you're the one building it. Hassabis has said publicly that he believes AGI could arrive within a decade or two. He's also said he finds that genuinely frightening. He is not only constructing something he describes as the most transformative technology in human history, and his position is that the people doing that have a level of responsibility most industry never face. Altman broadly shares the concern. His answer is to win the race and set the norms from the front. Move fast enough that the irresponsible actors can't get there first, and use that position to define how the technology develops. Hassabis' answer is to win the race and not let go of the brakes. Neither of them is obviously wrong. That is what makes this the most genuinely uncertain story I have covered on this channel. Three things the DeepMind story teaches about building something that matters. First, the detour is sometimes a strategy. Hassabis walked away from a successful games career to do a PhD at 29. It looked like a step backward. It was the foundation of everything that followed. If you don't fully understand what you're building, you will eventually hit a ceiling that talent alone cannot raise. Second, the terms of a deal define what you become after it closes. Hassabis had multiple buyers. He didn't take the highest offer unconditionally. He imposed an ethics board, operational independence, and research autonomy. The conditions he negotiated in 2014 shaped the kind of lab DeepMind became. Price matters, terms matter more. Third, the most valuable thing you can build might be the thing that generates no revenue at all. AlphaFold was given away for free. It has since been downloaded over 250 million times by researchers working on diseases that have resisted medicine for generations. That is a kind of return that doesn't appear on any balance sheet, and it's the one Hassabis seems most interested in. Next in the AI Revolution series, Geoffrey Hinton, the man who spent decades building the foundations of modern AI, watched the world finally catch up with what he'd always believed was possible, and then quit Google to warn anyone who would listen about what he'd helped create. Follow so you don't miss it.